Namaste and good morning. We'll start our class with the prayers. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now we'll chant Mahamrityunjaya mantra 3 times to pray for those who are in suffering. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone. Today is 5th September and in India it is celebrated as a special day, as Teachers' Day. It started after the second President of India, Sri Radhakrishnan, and his birthday was 5th September, and he was a great freedom fighter, philosopher, teacher. He also became the president later on, President of India. And he did not want his birthday to be celebrated for himself, so he said, let it be celebrated as a Teachers' Day. So it has become a tradition in India to celebrate September 5th as the Teachers' Day. Shri Guruji has written a very beautiful message on this occasion. I can share that with you. So let me send it to you on the chat window. I hope you probably can get the text file. Let me try. Okay, so I can send you the text then of it. It doesn't take the files, I think. So you can read it later on. It's a long message, but it's a beautiful message. And it did not go the whole message, I think. It has a limit. So let me see. Okay, so it has gone into 3 parts. You can somehow connect it. and read the message. So, there was. So we'll start with this Teachers' Day. Congratulations to all of you. Happy Teachers' Day. And we all are teachers and students at the same time. And somebody said they received the message in the mail, so that was a good thing. And there is a little bit of a problem on the screen. Let me see if I can fix it. Okay, so those who received in the mail, well and good. Otherwise, I just sent it to you. So with this, we'll start with our study, continue our study of Bhagavad Gita. So now today we do the verse number 17 to 17. So I'll chant the verse and you repeat after me in your place. Avinashi tu tad vidhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinasham avyayasyasya na kaschit kartum arhati. Now I'll repeat the whole verse in continuously and you can chant along with me. Avinashi tu tad vidhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinasham avyayasyasya na kaschit kartum arhati. So we'll see the word meanings. First, the type of the words. So tu is indeclinable, tat is a pronoun, vidhi is a verb, yena is a pronoun, sarvam is a pronoun, idam is also a pronoun, tatam is a nominal, vinasham is a nominal, avyayasya is a nominal, asya is a pronoun, na is indeclinable, kaschit is indeclinable, kartum is indeclinable, and arhati is a verb. So there are two verbs and one is implied, this asti here. So there are three total sentences and now we'll see the case. Avinashi, it's a accusative, singular, gender is neuter, and here the base word is, it's an interesting base word here. Avinashin. So avinashin is a word which ends in. That means something possessing it. So vinasha is destruction. Avinasha is non-destruction. And avinashin is the one who has the quality of non-destruction. So indestructible. This is a type of word in Sanskrit where a suffix can come in the sense of in, and it means it has that thing. So literally it means one who possesses, one who has indestruction or non-destruction, the quality of that. Tu is indeclinable. That means but or indeed. Tat is a pronoun and it is also an accusative singular neuter. Base word here is tad, means that. Vidhi it's a verb form and it's a lot lakara for the second person singular. Verb type is parasmipadi. Vid is the root and it means to know. So since it's a lot lakara and it's a second person, so second person is referring to you and you should know or please know that or may you know. Like in this sense, lot lakara can be used. So Lord Krishna is addressing to Arjuna, Vidhi, you should know. Yena, it's a instrumental, singular. It can be the same form in neuter and masculine. And it's a tad, sorry, yad. And one by which. So this is a relative clause and in English normally it would be by which or by whom, but it's not like as a question mark, it's a simply relative clause statement. So we see the meanings of all these words together later on. Sarvam is a pronoun. So this is a nominative case, singular, neuter, and base word here is sarva, like jala, jalam, sarvam, and meaning is all. Sarva means all. Idam is also nominative, singular, neuter. Idam means this. Tatam, nominative, singular, neuter. Tata, pervaded. This is a participle. So tatam is coming as pervaded. Vinasham, this is accusative, singular, masculine, and the word here is Vinasha, like Rama, Akaranta, and it means destruction. Vinasha means destruction. Avyayasya, Avyayasya. So this you probably know, most of you, like Ramasya. So this is nominative. This is sixth case. Singular. Masculine. And here it can be both masculine or neuter. Avyaya. So vyaya means which changes. Avyaya means which does not change. So unchangeable. Asya. So this is idam, and it means of this. It's a sixth case. Na means not. Kashit means someone. Not someone, na kashit together means no one. So it becomes a strong negative when we put, like individually they mean not someone, together it means no one. Kartum, this is also indeclinable, means to do. Arhati, this is a verb form. Latlakara, third person, singular. Parasmaipadi. And here the root is arha, to be able. So let us see the sentences first. So one sentence is simply Avinashi tu tadvidhi. You should know that indestructible. Indeed, you should know that indestructible. So what is that? So here he is qualifying here. Yena sarvam idam tatam. One by which all this is pervaded. So that is also refers to from the previous verse. So if you remember, in the previous verse, we had this nasato vidyate bhava, that asat, we use the word asat and sat because that made more sense. So asat has no existence and sat never ceases to be. So this sat, which never ceases to be, that's what is being referred to here as tat, that. And that's where the tu, this particle which kind of used for emphasis, that you should know that. So between sat and asat, now Lord is further explaining that what do they mean. And he is saying that you should know that sat as indestructible. That is an indestructible. And also another property, one by which all this is pervaded. So sarvamidam, all this means the whole universe. So the whole universe is pervaded by that. This particle or this word tatam, which means pervaded, it has been used in Gita quite a few times, and generally in the same sense. So I just try to find some today. So for example, here we see in this verse 217, which we are studying, by which know that pervades the whole universe. Then here in verse number 822, he is referring to Purusha, the cosmic being, by yena sarvam idam tatam, the same, exactly the same words, yena sarvam idam tatam, by Supreme Purusha, by which all this is pervaded. Then he used for first person pronoun. Maya tatam idam sarvam. The whole of this universe is permeated by me. And then another place he refers to the God, Ishvara, Yena sarvam idam tatam. Same words, by which all this is pervaded. There is another place also where Arjuna is praising Lord Krishna and says, by you, everything is pervaded. So, interestingly, here in this verse, Lord Krishna is not describing God. He is describing the self. Because if you look at in the previous verses, it is very clear that he is describing this Sat and Asat and coming from Dehi and Deha, one the body and the one indweller of the body, and that will become more clear in the next verse. So here he is referring to the soul or the self by which all this is pervaded. So if you take all these statements of Gita where he has said Yena sarvam idam tatam, that means this thing that he is establishing the identity of the self with the Supreme Being. There is the sense of what we call Advaita Vedanta, non-duality. Another interesting aspect of this is that all this is pervaded by that Sat. That means Asat, when we studied last time, that Asat doesn't really exist. It has no real existence, but it has the relative existence. And I gave the example of table and wood. The table has a dependent existence. Wood, in this particular example, and wood has independent existence. So the destruction of table does not cause the destruction of wood. So whatever we see the universe, which is a Sat, it is this Sat alone is pervaded there. That means the whole universe has the dependent existence, and this self alone is pervaded as the independent existence. Just like the wood is pervaded in the table. And that's where when we say that Lord is omnipresent, I'm not sure how many of you have really thought about it, that what does this omnipresence mean? How is Lord omnipresent when we say it's omnipresent? What does that really mean? That means everything is nothing but he alone. And Vedanta has this idea that Lord, he alone, Brahman alone exists, and self as I is non-different from Brahman. Then he is coming here, Vinasham Avyayasyasya na kashit kartum arhati. Nobody is able to do the destruction of this unchangeable being. No one is able, no one has the capability to destroy this unchangeable being. Why no one can have the capability? Because he has described the whole thing in the terms of Sat and Asat. Asat has only the dependent existence, so it cannot destroy the Sat. For example, the table cannot destroy the wood. It is impossible. The very nature of table is that it cannot be separate from the wood. In order to destroy something, you have to stand apart from that. And if you say that Sat could destroy itself, that is also not possible, because there is no differentiation in Sat. Unlike the differentiation which we see in Asat, that the one table is different from another table. But because it is all pervading, it is one thing, there are no parts in Sat for one part to destroy the other. So Acharya Shankara, in his commentary on Gita, he says even God does not have the power to destroy this, simply because that God alone is that Sat. God is non-different from that Sat. We see the next verse now. Here he is describing a little bit more about that Asat aspect in this verse. So Sat he describes, and then he connects the both in terms of an individual. So I'll chant this verse. Antavanta ime dehaha nityasyoktaha sharirinaha anashino prameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. Now the whole verse together. Antavanta ime dehaha nityasyoktaha sharirinaha anashino prameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. So this is a nominal. Ime is pronoun. Deha is nominal. Nityasya is nominal. Uktaha is nominal. Sharirinaha is nominal. Anashinaha nominal. Aprameyasya nominal. Tasmat is indeclinable. Yudhyasya is verb. Bharata is a nominal. So Antavantaha, it's a nominative, plural, masculine, and the word here is Antavat. So subject to end. End here means the end, subject to coming to an end basically. So this is another, just like we saw the previous verse, there was a suffix in, means one who has that. Similarly, there is another suffix in Sanskrit, vat, which also means one has that. So literally it means, anta means end, one who has an end, or one who is subject to coming to an end. So that's what antavat means. Ime, this is nominative, plural, masculine. The word here is idam, and because it's plural, idam means this, it becomes these. Dehaha, it's a nominative, plural again, masculine, and here the word is deha. So it's like Rama, Ramaha, nominative plural, means body. It becomes bodies. Nityasya, so this is sixth case, singular. masculine, Nitya. So of the eternal. Nitya means eternal. So it's a sixth case. So it becomes of the eternal. Uktaha. This is also nominative, plural, masculine. The base word is like ukta, same, akaranta. Uktaha. Like nityaha, nityaha. Deha, dehaha. Ukta, uktaha. And it means is said. So this is a participle which means it is spoken as such or it is said as such. So if you look at all these nominative plural here in masculine, so these four words, they are all nominative masculine plural. That means they say the same thing. What are they saying? That these bodies are said, it's a plural, we can say are said to subjected to the end. So that means it is spoken about of these bodies that these bodies are subject to an end. They come to an end. Sharirinaha, this is genitive, singular, masculine, and here it is sharirin. So one who has body. So it is the same suffix as we saw in the last verse. Avinashin, one who has this property of indestruction. Similarly, shariran, sharira is the body. Sharirin, one who has the body. Anashinaha, this is also the similar kind of word. Genitive, singular, masculine, and here it is anashin. Indestructible. Aprameyasya. So this is like Rama, Ramasya. The here word is aprameya. Immeasurable. So prameya means something which can be measured. Immeasurable. Tasmat, therefore. Yudhyaswa. Yudhyaswa means it's a verb. It's a lotlakara. Second person, singular. Verb type is Atmanipadi here. And it is yudh, the root, to fight. So what does it mean? It's again a command kind of thing. So you should fight or you fight. It's a second person. So Lord is telling Arjuna that you should fight or you please, or you can say giving a command. Bharata, this is vocative, singular, masculine. And this word has come earlier in Gita a few times in our studies. Means it's the name of Arjuna. And it signifies from the clan he is from. So he is from the clan of Bharata. There was a great king Bharata earlier in their lineage. Based upon that, the descendants of Bharata are called Bharata. So Lord Krishna is referring Arjuna to O Bharata. So now if you look at here, this is an interesting verse. So first Lord describes in 17, verse number 17, the indestructible nature of Sat as the self. And now he is describing that how is it connected to the bodies. And he is saying that these bodies are spoken of as subject to end. That means they are going to come to an end. That is how the nature of these bodies is. Any body comes to an end because he is giving the antavat. They have that property of coming to an end. On the other hand, Shariri, the one who has the body, that is referring to the self or the soul. So that he is saying eternal. That never comes to an end. It's indestructible. So it never comes to an end. And also it's immeasurable. We'll see what does immeasurable mean. It's an interesting word. So if you look at here, the difference is very clearly stated between the body and the one who has the body, one who is the indweller of the body, the self. That the bodies are subject to an end. That's the very nature of the bodies. And the self, which is pervading, because he's saying everything, that yena sarvam idam tatam, by which all this is pervaded. All this means not just the body, but everything. That is indestructible, does not come to an end, and it's eternal. An interesting observation, if you look at, the body is in plural here. The deha is plural, while the shariri is singular. That means it is the same self. Selves are not many. There is no such thing as many selves. So one self have multiple bodies, could be multiple. So that means all this variety we see in the universe. And here body, here Lord Krishna is referring to human body because that's what Arjun was concerned about. But any body essentially, because he's saying in the previous verse, yena sarvam idam tatam. The whole universe is pervaded by that. So if you think from that perspective, the same self, one self, is pervading through all the bodies. It is not like a different self exists in this body and another self exists in another body. So it's very interesting because it has been made very clear here by using the singular for the self and plural for the bodies. There are two adjectives here, or three adjectives here for the self. One is eternal, another is indestructible, and third one is immeasurable. So what is the difference between eternal and indestructible? Naturally, something is eternal has to be indestructible or vice versa. So Acharya Shankara in his commentary, he is referring to that these two things are mentioned, not as they should not be considered like a repetition, but they are mentioned because in the world we have a tendency to say that when something truly comes to an end, a person, for example, dies, body comes to an end, and the person has essentially disappeared. Body is either cremated or buried, and the person is no longer visible. Person is no longer there. That is coming to an end. Another way we many times say figuratively that I am finished or he is finished. That doesn't mean that person has actually died. It's more like a figurative way of saying that person is finished. Even when somebody could be terminally ill, somebody lost a lot of money, somebody maybe lost his love, I am done, I am finished, like that kind of thing. So he's saying the self is beyond both of these kind of destruction. So neither figuratively it can be finished, nor actually it can be destroyed. There is another property of the self, immeasurable. This is a very interesting property, and those of you who have some understanding of Vedanta can understand a little bit easily. That this prameya, this word is called prameya. Prameya means something which is measured. It's coming from root ma. Ma means to measure. And when you say aprameya, means it is not possible to measure. Immeasurable, many times in English we refer to something that is a huge quantity, or that is because our instruments are not enough sophisticated to measure it. But here that's not what it means. Here it means that it's simply not possible to be subject to measurement. Measurement here, it doesn't necessarily mean that any instruments I'm using outside, but truly I measure, I come to know of everything through my senses and the mind. That's how ultimately I gain any information or knowledge about anything, through my sense organs supported by the mind. Instruments are just a help to the sense organs or the mind. But truly speaking, these are the sense organs in the mind by which I measure anything in the whole world. The self is beyond the sense organs and the mind. And that's where the immeasurable part is. What does it mean that it is beyond the sense organs and the mind? Then how would I know? If everything is known through the sense organs and the mind, then is it something that I would not know? And if I would not know, then why Lord is giving the command here, vidhi? This is a very interesting word. You should know. He is saying to Arjuna in the previous verse. He is not saying that you just believe my words. So that's a very important difference here. Gita places a lot of emphasis on the understanding, on the intellect, on the aspect of that you should understand, you should know, not just blindly believe. So here he is saying immeasurable. That means how to know if it is not in the scope of sense organs or the mind. The self is self-evident. It does not require the mind or the sense organs to know the self. That's what it is. So in order to know something, I need to use the mind and sense organs. But in order to know myself, like I exist, I really don't know the mind or sense organs. That is a very self-evident thing. In order to even know that I have a mind, I must exist first myself. In order to understand that I have sense organs, I must exist first before that. And it's kind of a little detailed topic in Vedanta, that how there are pramana, that what are the ways to know something, and why the self is beyond all the pramanas. We can discuss it. It will come more in the other verses also. We'll discuss it more there. And and then he's saying, therefore you should fight. So this command seems like a very strange, that he's talking about all these things, and now he's saying, therefore you should fight, Arjuna. So what is the connection here? That therefore you should fight. He has discussed all this philosophy, and now he's saying, therefore, now you get up and fight. So one thing is that Arjuna is concerned about the death of Bhishma, Drona, his loved ones. Lord is saying, look, these bodies, the very nature of the body is that they will come to an end. No matter how much effort you can make, you do or not do anything, that is not going to change. So these bodies are by very nature is subject to an end. On the other hand, the self, which is the real thing, that can never come to an end. You understand that particular part very clearly, and therefore you can fight, or you should fight. Again, a question comes, what kind of teaching would it be? That just because bodies are subject to destruction and self is eternal, that I can just go and killing the people? So here, one thing has to be understood, that Lord essentially is not giving the command to fight, even though it seems so. And this is what creates some confusion in minds of people. In that Gita, Lord Krishna is promoting the warfare. Arjuna is a pacifist, he doesn't want to fight, and Lord Krishna is making him fight. Arjuna came with what intention in the battlefield? He came with the intention to fight. He understood that what this war was about. He understood very clearly what was his role, and it was a dharma yuddha, means the war for the sake of goodness. It was not the war for the sake of destruction. In fact, Pandavas tried, including Lord Krishna, every single measure to avoid the war, and it simply could not be avoided. So for the sake of righteousness, to protect the righteousness, Arjuna understood very clearly that it was his duty to fight this war. And that's how he came. He was the one who requested Lord Krishna to come to him, to become his charioteer. Not that Lord Krishna told him that you should fight this war. So Arjuna was very clear that this war is a just war and he needs to fight this war. And with that intention, he came into the battlefield. But after coming into the battlefield, when he saw his near and dear ones, he was overcome by the sense of delusion and sorrow, and he forgot the sense of duty, and he wanted to run away. So Lord Krishna is saying that, look, the teachings which I have given to you so far, they are for removing that obstacle in the form of which has come in the form of delusion and sorrow. If you understand whatever I have told you so far, you should not be subject to delusion and sorrow. And that blockage being removed, now you should perform your duty, which in this case is to fight the war. So this is a very important part. It is Arjuna's duty, which he understood, but there was a blockage in terms of the ignorance, in terms of the delusion, and Lord Krishna's teachings of Gita are there to remove the delusion. Therefore, he says, Vidhi, you should know that this is what it is. And you knowing the truth should not be subject to the delusion, and therefore you should perform your duty, which is in this case is to fight. If suppose in this case another scenario would have been that a student who wants to become a sannyasi because the studies are very difficult, who wants to become a monk, Lord Krishna would have actually given him these teachings and said that now you should study, because you want to run away from something because of some delusion, because of some error in your understanding, and that error being removed, you should again perform that duty. So that's a very important aspect here to understand, that Lord is not telling Arjuna to fight as such, like he's not promoting the war. He was the one who actually went as a peace messenger to Duryodhana just before the war started, as a last ditch effort. It did not succeed. So Gita is basically to remove the delusion which we have about ourselves, about the world. And that delusion being removed, one can be fully committed to whatever one's duty is in that stage of life. even if it means to fight a righteous war. So, and he is referring to Arjuna as Bharata, coming from such a great clan, that people in your clan, in this lineage, they never shrugged away from duty, O Arjuna. So no, even if the duty was difficult, they still carried out their duty. So that's a very interesting verse here. And with this, I'll take any questions which may be there. So many people have conveyed Happy Teachers Day and gratitude. I thank you, all of you. And I do not consider myself as a teacher here for Gita particularly, because I'm a very much of a student of Gita, but I'm just sharing you something which I understand. It doesn't have to be the thing that you have to accept as the final thing. It's just I'm sharing my understanding, that's all. So it's not, I myself am a student here of the of Gita class, just playing the role of a teacher. So, and is there any questions related to the verses which we discussed? So there is a question here. Ukta does not mean speakers, plural of speaker. No, here Ukta means something which has been spoken, not something which has been. So Ukta means is said, something is said, or it is also referred to someone to whom a particular thing is said. So in that sense, but it does not refer to the speaker. Okay, there is a question. If Nasha is destruction, what does V prefix add to it? So we have this word Vinasham. If Nasha itself means destruction, Vinasha means, you can say, total destruction, or in a very special way, even the figurative way, destruction. So we normally gives like Vishesha, so a special kind of destruction or total destruction. In that sense, you could understand Vinasha. There is a question here, is Tat related to Tat? I'm not sure, Salil Baba, what is your question? If you could please clarify that. Avinashi and Anashin both mean the same thing. Is it just different in the way it is used? Yeah, they means the same thing. They are Avinashi and Anashin because they are referring to the same thing as self. So that's why he's using, as I said, Vinasha and Nasha, they pretty much mean the same thing. So in one verse he is saying Avinashi, another verse he is saying Anashi, Anashina. So because the meaning is pretty much the same. The V prefix does not really change the meaning that much. So there is a statement here, got so much clarity on the statement Yudhyasva Bharata. Thank you. Avyaya also means Avinashi, correct. Interesting that Nasha is used beautifully in 217 multiple times. Yes, so Avyaya means something which undergoes change. So generally, if you look at something which undergoes the change, that is the philosophy of Vedanta, that is subject to destruction. So there are some other schools of philosophy which believe that something could be undergoing change and yet it could be eternal. For example, the universe, they consider that it is changing, but it is eternal. It does not come to an end. Like the flow of river, it's constantly changing, yet it remains. So river still remains. So to make sure that philosophical school point of view is also addressed, Lord Krishna included Avyayas also, that it does not even undergo a change. It's not just that it does not undergo the destruction, it does not even change. So self is not like a river which appears to be the same while constantly undergoing the change. That view Lord Krishna wants to make sure that that is not the case with the self. There is a question here: self, soul, and Brahman, are all these synonyms? So synonyms not in the sense that you understand a word for another word. This understanding is the whole idea of Vedanta, this scriptures, that to how this unity between the self, which I consider as me, a little me, to the Brahman, this all pervading consciousness, that there is a non-difference of that. So that is something which a scripture unfolds. So they are not synonyms to be like they are not very clearly, like they are not available as synonyms, as you will say two objects. Like for water, there are multiple words in Sanskrit. They are synonyms. But in this case, for them to say that self and Brahman is non-different from each other, that's the purpose of the scripture, to unfold that vision that they indeed are non-different. There's a non-dual reality. So there is a question here: Deha does not have visarga when chanted. It is present. So this is something which I had covered in the last class also. That in this case, if you look at anta vanta ime deha, even though I do not put the visarga here because visarga goes away because of the sandhi rule, but here there is a pause. So the verse has 4 quartets. After every quartet there is a pause. Whenever there is a pause, as per the sandhi rules, sandhi does not take place. That means the word should be spoken without the sandhi. That's why it's spoken as deha. And that's how generally the case is. Some people do speak with the sandhi also. So that's the rule here, that after every quartet, because there is a pause, the sandhi is resolved and the actual word is spoken. So there is a question here: Swamiji, did you say Gita help us to find our duty, purpose, or I misunderstood? So Gita, I was telling that it is to remove the delusion about because of which you do not want to perform the duty, or in other words, you do not understand also your duty. In case of Arjuna, he understood his duty to start with. Because of the delusion and sorrow arising from the delusion, he wanted to run away from the duty. In other words, he thought that now my duty is not to fight the war, but to become a monk, to become a beggar, life of beggar. And that's where that was out of delusion, not truly to see the truth. And Gita teachings are to remove the delusion, because all the sorrow in the life arises from that delusion. So Gita is ultimately a scripture for us to remove our sorrow, no matter whatever it could be caused by. Okay, there is a question here. Tatam means pervading. Tat means that. Are they related? No, they are not related words. Tatam is actually coming from root tan. Tan means to stretch. So that's why tatam means it is stretched, all pervading. So there is a question. So self is one, that is called God, which is truth pervaded on all beings, and soul meaning Atma is different from self. No, this is what we discussed, that Atma is not different from the self. Atma and self are the words. In self we say in English, Atma is in Sanskrit. So Atma and self are synonymous. Atma is just, in English, if you translate, you will translate as self. So with this, I don't have any questions. So thank you so much for all your beautiful messages. And I hope that with the grace of gurus, teachers, and Lord Krishna, let Gita Shastra become meaningful in our life, and it help us remove our delusion and sorrow. Thank you. Let us close the session with the prayer. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Thank you all.